Welcome back. Belarus is one of those countries that has taken legislative steps to protect its unique culture from the influence of the foreign entertainment industry. France, for instance, requires its radio stations to play 40% French music. The European Union demands that at least 50% of television programming in member states must be European. However, in Belarus, a country well beyond the reach of the lawmakers from Brussels, officials have taken things a step further. As Simon Ostrovsky reports, they are force-feeding their people so much Belarusian music, their made-in-Minsk music policy is backfiring.
In Belarus, there's no shortage of signs that you're in Belarus. There are flags absolutely everywhere. And a few years ago, the government tried to replicate that situation on the airwaves by imposing a law that says 75% of the music played has to be from Belarus.
So now the radio waves are full of music like this.
If you rewind the tape back to the day when you were starting out, chasing the fame, smiling for cameras, loving for free.
Atlantica is a local band that sings in English. Thanks to the regulations, it's now a household name. You'd think its lead singer would be overjoyed, but he's not.
If to speak about this quota of 75%, so I don't think it's good. They play just our songs on the radio all the time, so they keep playing them. Well, but at the same time, the interest is getting low. It's getting not that just great as it used to be just maybe 3 years ago.
Even though Atlantica has benefited, its frontman thinks the rules go too far. In an effort to conform to the regulations, it appeared radio stations were overplaying what local bands they had. The result? Listeners were tuning out and switching off.
It's had a negative effect on the image of Belarusian radio stations, because for us it was a very unexpected decision, and we were completely unprepared, because at the time when it was being imposed, there was absolutely no Belarusian material. There were a few well-known names that were famous all over the Soviet Union, but they were just a few individuals.
The regulation has had another side effect. Members of the public, eager to help radio stations meet the quota, are sending in their own music. Many don't quite make the grade. Under the circumstances, radio producers will use any excuse to call even foreign music Belarusian.
In foreign bands, we look for some kind of connection to Belarus, family roots. Maybe there was a grandfather who lived here at some time that we can highlight. Because there are inspections which record our broadcasts and compare the number of Belarusian musical tracks. If they have complaints about the amount, we can be issued with a warning. And after 3 warnings, they take away your license.
In their determination to find excuses to keep playing foreign bands, radio stations have overlooked local groups. This band is one of the few performing in the local language, and it can't get on the radio.
It's a pity in our FM stations 75% of Belarusian music is only pop music. We haven't elite stations which works with rock music, metal music. That's why we have a bit of problem with our rotation on FM stations.
3.5 years after the 75% rule came into force, the regime has failed to prop up many Belarusian musicians, and the airwaves are still full of English and Russian language pop.
I think only pop music have benefits from it, because if you, for example, listen to Belarusian radio stations, you will see that there are many only pop music there. Of course, we have some rock music, but you can listen on live concerts and very rarely on radio channels.
There was one band I hadn't talked to yet, NRM. By all accounts, it was Belarus's most popular rock outfit. When I met its guitarist, the band had only recently been taken off of a government blacklist it had been on for 3 years, after giving concerts at rallies opposing the country's president.
This law came out at about the same time as we were banned. Supposedly there's only Belarusian music on the radio. But with the mysterious workings of this law, about 10 or 15 of the most popular rock bands have been taken off the list of approved bands. As a result, the only Belarusian bands getting on the radio are pop groups.
But even with the ban lifted, and DJs still desperate to find Belarusian music, for some reason NRM still aren't getting any radio airtime.
There's always this attempt at self-censorship. People try not only to follow what's officially written down, they try to guess what it is that the authorities might want, to figure out what the unspoken orders are. This situation prevents some radio DJs and program editors from playing Belarusian language bands. I've heard the opinion that they don't want material in Belarusian, and yet we're in Belarus.
The 75% rule was meant to limit outside influence on Belarus and make the radio sound more Belarusian. But all the regulations seem to have achieved is to promote the musicians that copy foreign music and stifle the rest.
Finally, there's one song that Belarus's president will never tire of hearing, and that's because it's about him. During the country's last election campaign, the forces of the state-run media were marshaled behind Alexander Lukashenko. And why limit the campaign to speeches when you can get some of Belarus's best-known voices to sing your praises on state-run TV? This musical salute to Alexander Lukashenko lives on the World Wide Web. It's our internet video of the week. We'll see you next time at The Listening Post.
Он плохому не научит. Батька всех построить может. Батька всех других покруче. Разведет легко обиды. Он надежен и спокоен. Только глянет, сразу видно. Кто у нас хозяин в доме? Слушай батьку. Слушай батьку. Если плохо тебе. Слушай батьку. Если все хорошо.